I'm Brady Forrest with O'Reilly Media here at Web 2.0 Summit, and with me today is a partner at August Captial, David Hornik. How's it going?
Good. How are you, Brady?
Pretty good, pretty good. So what's been going on for you lately? What happened at the lobby last week?
So the lobby, this is this digital media conference that I run, and of course what happens in the lobby stays in the lobby. Mm-hmm. Although I tell you, it's a very hard problem, right? And this was year 5 of the lobby.
I mean, the founders of Twitter go. So
yeah,
surely
right, like,
you
what
have
are you going to do?
Something gets leaked every so often.
Well, I mean, the idea of what happens at the lobby stays in the lobby is that you should be able to sit down with whoever's around you and have a conversation that's open and honest and isn't going to then get echoed into the universe, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, occasionally there'll be a picture or people will check in at the hotel or whatever. That's not the end of the world. But every so often then there'll be an overheard something, or then I go, oh, man, please don't do that. But I will say 5 years ago when I started the lobby, there wasn't as much of this kind of natural social media, outflux. And now it's a much harder. You're basically telling people to not behave the way they ordinarily do, and that's tricky. Yeah,
it's a problem with any sort of gathering like that. But in aggregate, can you talk about what was the mood there? Were there any, what trends did you detect?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, people were excited and enthusiastic. We had this interesting challenge where there was a hurricane off the coast of Mexico that got in the way of people getting there. Wow. And by the time they got there, they were very much energized by the opportunity to connect with 170 of the sort of influencers around the digital media space and say, how can we think about this? So we talked about things like what's happening with daily deal sites. What's happening is group buying something that is applicable to a lot of things. What can we learn from MySpace and Facebook, the advent of Twitter? It was actually a great conversation that I think it would be fair for me to talk about, which was there's an entrepreneur in New York named Amit Gupta who has recently been diagnosed with leukemia.
And there was a benefit for him on Friday in New York. Yeah.
What needs to happen right now is that a lot of South Asians, a lot of Indians need to swab their cheeks and figure out whether they're a good match, bone marrow match for Amit. And so one of the things that we discussed was kind of social media in a box. How do you mobilize people to do this sort of important thing quickly, efficiently? And it's all about filtering social media. It's about finding the right set of people. It's creating, emotional engagement, and then getting people to act, not just to sit back. And so that was a really interesting because it pulls together a lot of what was being discussed everywhere else.
And then, but also, I mean, I can't even picture it really being able to packaged into a box, because once you did that, it's canned. And it's outdated, and
in fact, this is interesting. So Gary Vaynerchuk was one of the guys leading the conversation, and Gary said, "Look, I have however many hundreds of thousands of Twitter followers, and a year ago, if he tweets something, instant activity, right? Instant action, because everybody sees it. Well, now your stream isn't just Gary Vaynerchuk; it's Gary and 73 million other people, and if you don't see it at that point in time, it just passes by. And so
the life of the average tweet is something like 11 minutes, and for a link, Social Flow, I think Social Flow or Bitly, two BetaWorks companies have released that type of the lifespan of a link.
And it's right. The half-life is much
6 hours
shorter,
for a
right?
link.
It's growing. It's
YouTube
decreasingly interesting, and so figuring that. So as you say, figuring that out. Okay, now it's not about just tweeting it out. It's about figuring out. So what was interesting was as this hurricane was hovering off the coast of Mexico, and a group of people were trying to figure out, are we going to be able to fly in or not? The conversation happened in an email that became kind of this reply all email, and it started with 2 people and suddenly was 100 people.
Yeah.
And yet it was an incredibly efficient way to have this conversation for a day. But if it had lasted for a week, people would have lost their minds.
Yeah,
right?
You guys would have moved it to Wave.
Or what? Yeah, exactly. Would have been in Wave, or would have been in some other thing that Google would have killed by the time the lobby was over.
Yeah,
and so
it was before iOS came out, iOS 5, or it was right.
It was sort of simultaneous or something.
So had anyone started playing with Siri yet? Were you guys dabbling with it down in Mexico?
I think one of the nice things, one of the goals is, hey, look, fly to someplace far away
and check
get out of your world.
Yeah.
people have devices in their pockets at all times, but on the other hand, it's really about sitting down with a group of people and having an interesting conversation. So I think that all of that is happening. Although I will say that, as my iPhone 4S sat in my house waiting for me, I had the conversation with a dozen other people saying, well, when I get home, then I'll unwrap it, get it going. So I think that this weekend there were lots of, okay, what is this thing doing? How, is it different? Is it better?
And how is what you learned at the lobby going to influence your investing going forward?
I think it does very broadly, right? You get to discuss lots of interesting trends. More importantly, you get to engage with a group of people who are thinking about interesting stuff, and they then say, oh, you should think about this, or you should meet so-and-so, or, it's what I've discovered about the venture business is that when you land in VC in year one, you know some, but you don't know a lot, right? You kind of have the context of what you've done before it, but it's usually relatively narrow. And then you start meeting with companies, you start hearing a bunch of stuff, and it educates you as to a universe of distribution mechanisms or ways of thinking about mobile or social or whatever. And so, I'm in year 11 as a venture investor, so I have 11 years of what I'd call kind of graduate school in technology and venture investing. And so all of that stuff that happens around you informs that next meeting you have where you say, oh, okay, I see why that's different and interesting, and hopefully you have a light bulb goes off and you put money in the right thing, or you don't put money in the wrong thing. And
so how do your 11 years influence what does that tell you about group buying?
Yeah, I think what it tells you is that in some instances, group buying is a tricky thing, right? Like why, what is it about this particular phenomena that makes sense or doesn't make sense? But I'm, literally in the process of funding a new company called IL50 that is dealing with kind of the combination of group buying and coupons, right? And that one just makes a world of sense to me when you consider that it's about, here's a thing, if I was going to buy Diet Coke now and there's an opportunity to buy it, great, I'm going to do it. Or I was going to buy Diet Coke, but I can buy Diet Pepsi for half the price, I'm going to do it. It's logical sense, sort of, we're investors in Zulily, this daily deal site for kids clothing. And when you look at it, you say, well, that makes a ton of sense. Anyone who's had a kid knows that they're obsessed, like that when that email comes in, you go, oh, that would be adorable on my child, and you buy it, that it has no influence on that next day when you see it and go, oh, I would buy that, as opposed to something where you might go, oh, I have 3 pairs of shoes already, I don't need the 4th. No. With babies, it's, oh, the 4th would be just as awesome.
So don't you think it's evil? Like playing on people's obsession with their kids? As a father, do you want to be manipulated that way?
Oh, I think it's fantastic. I think, before, my wife and I had to go to the store to constantly be able to cutify my child. Now you can just get an email and go, oh, that's it, So I don't think that we're manipulating anyone. I think we're providing this opportunity. The other thing
So you think it's good creepy?
Yeah, that's right. Totally good creepy.
Good creepy.
I'm a total believer
creepy.
in good creepy.
Okay.
Look, I funded Blippi, right? I believe in this idea that people misconstrue privacy, right? Privacy isn't about keeping information private. That's not, who cares about that? Privacy is about keeping the stuff you want private, but convincing people that if they make things public, that they'll get way more utility, right? So I'm all about good. What do you want to know about me that'll help me be healthier or be smarter or buy the things I want to buy or know about things I don't know? And yeah, maybe there's a moment in time where you go, oh, how did you know my baby's 6 months old? But on the other hand, do you want to be advertised a 3-month-old, hoodie, whatever you want? You want the 6-month-old.
You want the 6-month-old.
So I think that's empowering, not creepy.
I'm totally with you.
Good.
I share a lot of my stuff out there and kind of like to reap the benefits.
Yeah.
What other sectors are you investing in right now?
Well, I guess I'd start by saying, as a firm, we sort of don't invest in sectors as much as really great entrepreneurs who tell us about something and we go, that, and that's been very broad. So, we were the earliest investors in Atheros, which became the Wi-Fi chip and everything. We were, we have a Zulily, but we have a Splunk. I was the first investor in Splunk, which is taking, machine data and providing a bunch of value to enterprise or whatever. So what's interesting is actually over the last couple of years, I've funded a group of these payments companies, not because I was saying, I got to invest in payments companies. Although the one thing that's awesome about payments companies is anytime you are moving money, it's easy to figure out how to make money.
Yeah.
You keep some.
Yeah.
I go, here's $100. Yeah, I'll keep a little. You have it. We have a business model. Life is great, right? So it's all good, right? And as long as you're providing enough value for them along the way, then people are thrilled, right? So I funded, WePay, which started out as how do you allow groups to pay for dues or rent or a rental house or whatever, and very quickly became, this is just an easier way to do things like buy tickets or donate to a charity or pay for a t-shirt or whatever. PayPal is 17 clicks or whatever the heck it is, and WePay is 2, right? Yeah. Setting up an account is an email, and boom, you can start collecting money. And so it's just a better way to do it, and therefore people are willing to pay for it because it's better, right? Pay Near Me, which is another company I funded, is how do you pay cash for things that happen online, right? There are 25% of the people out there who have no credit card, have no debit card, but they would love to buy Facebook credits or, whatever, a bus ticket. So you go to 7-Eleven with your printed out Pay Near Me slip, and they scan it, and you give them $23, and boom, it's cleared, right? And so how do you do that across a bunch of things, right? If you're renting property and you have a bunch of apartments, why do you want someone coming to you with a check? Go to 7-Eleven, pay, right? That's it. It's just a more efficient way. So that's kind of. I'm excited about those. I just funded my first legal thing, which is.
Oh yeah, you get to go back to your roots.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Those aren't my roots, but I was, a decade and plus a little bit ago, I was an attorney, and so for a while, I just say, anything legal, I'd say I'm not interested. And then the guys from Rocket Lawyer came and sort of described, here's what's happening with online legal and why it is that. The internet can make us way more efficient while empowering attorneys to do a better job, and that's just a good business. And so, in fact, since the time that I funded it, it's increased 50% in in a question of months.
What does it do?
So imagine you want to incorporate a business, or you need an employment contract, or you want to do a will. Any of these kind of legal tasks, you go to Rocket Lawyer, and it has what I think of as kind of a Mad Libs process for describing the sets of things that you want to get to a legal agreement. And some of the time, that's all you need, right? Is to just walk through the process, and boom, you have the will, and it's great. Some of the time, there's some tricky things, and you're kind of curious, and so there's this ability to have a lawyer do it with you, participate in, and so you subscribe to the to Rocket Lawyer, and a lawyer will help you with the process and make sure that you get it right. And then sometimes it's a complicated enough thing that really what you want is a lawyer to help you create that document or that, defend a particular situation, whatever. And in that instance, Rocket Lawyer has a set of attorneys who are associated with the site that help you, through your business experiences. And
so it's sort of like Redfin for the legal profession.
A little bit. I mean, it's about, it's the idea that that lawyers are part of a process of protecting yourself both personally and in your business. And instead of thinking of them as an expense, think of them as a business tool. And Rocket Lawyer empowers you to make that the most efficient use of that business tool you can imagine.
Okay. And just to wrap things up, you're now teaching at Harvard, or you've been teaching at Harvard. How has the perception of the internet and technology changed at Harvard over the years?
Yeah, I think that's actually kind of interesting. I mean, I taught intellectual property at Stanford Business School for a bunch of years. I'm now teaching at Stanford Law School as well. And in Stanford, it permeates everything that students think about. Right? Yep. This idea of startups is a sort of course, right? That one of the paths is to go engage in the creation of something new and exciting. At Harvard, there isn't that presumption, right? At Harvard, there's very much this, there is an alternative. Hey, listen up, there's this alternative, and you should consider it. And so I think that people are starting to recognize that and appreciate that. I mean, I have to say that the dean of the law school is excited that I'm there preaching that there are alternatives to going to law firms, because not all students are the same. And so I think this is true of Harvard undergrad. It's true of Harvard Business School. There's a new space that Harvard's creating called the iLab that includes the law school and the business school and the engineering department to allow to incubate Harvard startups. And
really?
So I'm going to be an advisor to that and spending time at the Rock Center for Entrepreneurship at HBS. And so I think we just need to create more resources so that people go, because it's not like they don't have role models. There is this guy named Zuckerberg. There is this guy named Gates, right? I mean,
both dropouts.
They dropped it.
Of Harvard.
It's true, but they went to Harvard,
yep,
right? I mean,
yep.
here's your chance, right? There are plenty of dropouts at Stanford as well, but there are also some great, you look at Peter Thiel, who's the biggest, advocate for like get out while you can. It's not like he quit. He went through it, and then not only that, he built his first business with all of his classmates. So,
yep.
I think that Harvard will have more role models. Will learn. There'll be more startups, and that ecosystem will grow. And I'm doing everything I can to be a promoter.
So, at what stage are you going to recommend to an iLab incubation that they move out to Silicon Valley?
Wow, you're trying to get me in trouble with Harvard.
I am.
Look, every company's different, right? Every company's different. The thing that is unique about Silicon Valley is that there is such density of startup activity. So you have great attorneys and accountants and venture investors and angel investors, and that density makes it a lot easier to build great startups. So I think there still is a whole lot of wind to your back if you're out here.
Yep.
But I think that those ecosystems are growing. They're clearly growing in New York.
Yeah, definitely.
Growing in Chicago now. They're growing in other places. Austin's had it. So maybe the key is that iLab and other things that are happening at Harvard will reinvigorate the Boston market, which has been a little bit on the downtrodden recently. So I'm all for that. That's great. I'm a bi-coastal guy. I'm very happy to promote both. But I'm going to be a realist with students and help them build big businesses.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you very much. I hope I think you answered that pretty well. You won't get in too much trouble.
Yeah.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Cool. Good to see you.